Are you ready to get the hydrofacial glow? Loved in 87 countries across the world. It's not a facial, it's a hydrofacial. Now available across the UK. Visit hydrofacial.co.uk to find your nearest location.
I've just landed.
You are both insane. I love it.
You look really spooky. Everybody looks
It is very, very
We
spooky.
are a bit late though, I'm just saying.
Yes. Oh, darlings, we all look so amazingly Halloweeny, don't we?
I am a
We do.
glampire. Just saying.
a glampire.
A glampire. I
Oh,
like that.
Harriet, that's the best word I've ever heard.
Yes.
A glampire. Well, I am a. What am I?
You're also a glampire.
Ooh.
With my wonderful hair.
Yes, it's
all
beautiful.
natural, you know. It just grew
Is it like a
overnight.
Tressie doll? Is it like a Tressie doll when you just push them in the middle of the back of their
style
hair?
Tressie's hair to match the lovely clothes she wears.
There we go.
Her hair grows. And I like Tressie's better than Barbie's.
What about
Thank you.
Cindy? I had some Cindy's as well.
I didn't like Cindy's or Barbie's. I like Tressie.
Sorry, I had lots of dolls hanging around the house called puppets. So I went off all of them.
I had also had a doll called Chatty Cathy, and you pulled a thing at the back, a string, and she said, "Hello, good morning." You know, like she just chatty Cathy lots of different things.
I thought you said you had a dog, and then I thought you'd pulled its tail. No, sorry.
No, she
I'm,
said.
please keep taking your meds. It's not working.
Yes, I'm still on another planet. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
You can tell. I've got to tell you what happened this morning.
Go on.
Yes.
And because he's here now, I've got to say it quite quietly.
Okay.
So this morning, right, I was in the shower, as one is in the shower, and I heard the phone ringing. But I thought, actually, the phone isn't ringing. I'm ringing someone, and I'm in the shower, and my phone is in another room. So I went into my bedroom, and I couldn't find the phone anywhere. And I realized that I was standing over it. Remember, I have no clothes on. And it was on FaceTime. And it was to Charlie the painter, who is now in the other room. And
I bet he is.
hello, and I went, "Oh my God." And then I just cut it off.
That
Now
is
then.
hysterical.
What did he see?
Has he mentioned it?
No.
What did he see?
Do you want to offer him some? Do you want to offer him some therapy?
I think so. I need to offer myself some therapy.
Yeah.
I mean,
How
Bear
do you
must have just pushed the button. I mean, you can imagine finding the phone and realizing that you're standing over it, can't you? It was like,
Oh, I hate to think.
Do you ever sit on the loo and look at your phone?
Yes.
That's the thing that terrifies me most. Is that you put the phone down and then because there's so many things online with people who've done exactly that. It's terrifying.
I know. And other things as well, which we won't mention.
yeah, but
But
how
you just
many
have, can
people
you
have
not?
actually stood over their phone unintentionally?
Yes. Oh, goodness me. Goodness. Do you know, what is the most embarrassing thing in our lives ever? Harriet?
You need to give me a minute. I can't think. There's so many.
I think that comes down to it, really, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I think my most embarrassing moment was when I weed all over the floor in the toilet on my first date, and people were queuing up to come in. I don't know. Because my mother told me never to sit on the seat, or actually my grandmother told me that. So I stood up, and I weed all over the floor.
I mean,
no way.
I think June Field better come in, actually, because this is getting disastrous. I mean,
June, come in.
June on a sort of post Halloween day.
There she is.
June.
Hello, how are you? I've got my dark makeup on today because I lent out all my brooms and things because I use them all year round. that friends wanted to borrow them on this day. So heck, you know.
It's okay. It's okay, June, because later on we are coming on our broomsticks to see you.
Yes.
You are. Remember, don't drink and fly.
Try not to.
Great to see you.
And you, darling. And you. Do they have breathalyzers then, the witches?
No, nobody would dare breathalyze them. No.
Oh.
No, dear. Their breath
No.
would keep everyone away, I would
Nobody take them on. No. Oh gosh, you're all looking fantastic. You're all
Thank you.
looking fabulous.
How are you, darling?
I'm doing really well, really well. You know, it's Halloween yesterday, and that's why it's so rife in the air with spirit, because they believed that, you know, today would be the celebration, and so it's Hallows Eve, that all the spirits would come and visit their homes and they celebrate the dead. And so that's why they dressed up in all these costumes and lit bonfires, was to ward the spirits away, because they all visited and everyone would be thinking about them. And that's why it's so rife spiritually, because everyone's thinking about their loved ones, or energies are sending out.
I'm just thinking about sweets, darling.
Shocking. Apparently, Halloween comes from like the day before All Hallows Day in Scotland, doesn't it?
It's the Celts. Yeah, it's to do with the Celts. Well, it's actually to do with the French and the English.
Oh.
Explain,
And
please.
Ireland, France, and England. That's where it's where it originated. And
Yeah.
it's it's Samhain, I think it is. That's, you know, they're going to be celebrating, which is celebrating the dead, saints, martyrs, loved ones. They put out them in different countries. They actually put offerings on a table. They cook their favourite foods. They put them all on a table and they leave them for a couple of days and drink or take stuff to the graveyard and put it down in memory of them, and then lift the stuff later on and have a celebration by eating it and drinking it.
After 2 days in the cemetery, probably wouldn't be my first course.
But you know, they say that if you put the food down, this is, I don't know if this is true or not, but it is, that when you go to taste it, if it's sitting in your living room table, an offering, or even alcohol, by the time that you go to taste it, it tastes of nothing.
Yeah, that would work. I haven't imagined that. What I find bizarre is Halloween, which in my childhood was something that kind of came and went. It was massive in the States, but not here. Guy Fawkes Night is the big thing. Now, Guy Fawkes Night is nothing, and Halloween has absolutely, you know, consumed everybody. It's amazing.
Well, of course, the power of the media and the power of buying costumes and sweets, etc., and sticking it in supermarkets and pushing it out. I think that has a lot to do with it, don't you?
100%.
Commercially.
When I was living in the States in 1985 or 6, can't remember. And I remember going to the bank. Do you remember those things, banks that people used to work in and give you money? Well, yeah.
No.
So I went to the bank, and all the tellers were wearing, you know, looked like the monsters, or they were all green. And I remember thinking, what's going on? And they said, it's Halloween. And I went, so? Yeah. And it was like, wow.
I know.
I never forgot that the weirdness of people in shops dressing up, and never seen anything quite like it.
A huge thing over there, and I think it's becoming bigger over here. They have a friend that I have that works in Knott's Berry Farm in California. They have a Halloween night. It's called Scary Fest, and people, it sells out all over, and they hire actors to dress in dummies and they chase people around. And they actually got my son a ticket because it was sold out, and she said, look, I've got him a ticket. And he's 30, and he went with his girlfriend, and he was totally terrified. And he said, I'll never go back to anything like that, because it was so well done.
When I was a kid, we used to go to Knott's Berry Farm all the time.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's it. They call it Knott's Scary Farm at Halloween, and it's a great big thing.
But also all the big places like Disney, Universal, they also do terrifying nights when you go for Halloween, and it's exactly the same sort of life experience of being literally terrified by monsters and things.
She told me a couple of times that they had to actually sit people down, and they had to say, look, I'm just an actor, because they just went totally overboard, terrified, up against the wall. Yeah.
Insane. We don't need
June.
Halloween. We have a crazy world. So, you know.
Without a
we
doubt.
live in
I was going to ask you, June, what is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you on Halloween?
When I was little, remember, I was just a little girl, and Halloween, we celebrated Halloween, but we did it like if you went to the brownies, and that you would be duking for apples, and then you would have the pancakes on a bit of string, and you would try and bite them with treacle on them, etc. But I always remember that I did feel things on Halloween. I didn't understand why, and it did scare me. But then I've talked about energies before, and with not really understanding what was happening to me when I was little, although I've got the measure of it now, I was obviously susceptible to these energies, the extra energies that were coming in, because it'd be like electricity in the air. I didn't really like Halloween very much when I was little. I went along with it, but I think when you're little, it's really scary when there's witches and things, especially if there's people appearing to you at night anyway, and then people appear in costumes and stuff. That's not a good thing.
No, not at all.
At my boarding school, we used to have a ghost walk, and it was like we had a long path that went from one school to the other school, like the junior school to the senior school, and this ghost walk, I mean, was terrifying. I mean, every year, and all of the staff used to make it up for the pupils. And I remember people jumping out and, you know, following things with my nose, and somebody coming out at the other end with something else. And it was absolutely terrifying. But, you know, the staff did it. I suppose they loved frightening the kids.
Well, you know, it does have an impression on a kid when you give them a fright or you frighten them.
Of course it does.
I don't like to be frightened. My sister was always doing that, jumping out and frightening me. Because she knew I was sensitive, and she'd wait behind a door. This was when she was older as well.
Yeah.
You do that one more time to me and I'm going to punch you. And she never did it again.
June, you know Ouija boards? I remember doing one of those on Halloween. It was when I was doing like a job in my holidays at this big sort of manor house in Cliveden. And it was an American university, and it was one of those really old houses. We all did it, and the glass started whizzing round. And I remember driving back home afterwards and being really scared, because it was like, I think 1 a.m. And I just felt that I brought the spirits with me, actually. Do you think, is it dangerous to do stuff like that?
It's very dangerous to do stuff like that. Now, anybody that's listening to this, do not get out Ouija boards and try it as a joke, because what you're actually doing is you're opening a door, and there's anything could walk into that door. Whereas if you're controlled and you're mediumistic, or you go to sessions or a controlled seance, that's a different thing. But when you don't know what you're doing, you're asking people to come in, and it's like going to bed and leaving your front door open. The luck of the draw is that 9 times out of 10, somebody will go, hey, you've left your door open, but the 10th time someone could come in. And once someone's in, it's very difficult to get rid of them. And so, you know, be warned about that. Don't dabble in stuff, because I've interacted with...
I would never do that. They always frighten me too much.
Ouija boards, we were given Ouija boards as kids. They were like toys, like Monopoly. We were given Ouija boards. They did them all.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Was that in the States?
No, here.
No, I remember. I remember at school people used to use them, but I would never use them.
But they were like boxes with all the things, and then you'd give instructions, and then you'd play.
No, I've never seen those. We would never have had those in the house. Usually, I remember my grandmother, she would sometimes tell me stories, but they used to cut out the little numbers and letters and put them round with a glass. But don't open a door that you can't close. I've had to fix many people that have been attacked or negative things happening after playing with stuff like that.
Wow.
But they do box them up like games. That's the thing, that it was a game.
I wonder, yes, they probably still do. You can get them on Amazon, June. It's out there.
Do you know, I stayed in a house in America. If I go over there, I'll rent a house and stay there for a good few weeks. And in a cupboard, there was lots of board games, and there was a Ouija board. And I went, out, it's going out. So we'll put it away out in the garage. And in fact, this house had a pool, and went and put it in the pool house. I went, and nobody touches it, and you don't go near it, because, you know, you just don't know what you're letting in.
There you go.
Oh. And it does
Absolutely.
actually happen that, you know, the glass does start moving round, doesn't it?
You know, there's a few instances that friends of mine that have played with Ouija boards or done something, that one instance where they were totally terrified was that they had a candle and the flame went on its side, and no matter how they blew it, it didn't move. And that really scared them. And it was just to show you that there's more to this life than what you can see with the physical eye. Don't allow that good and bad in this world as there is in the next, especially round this time.
When is the next good time to put a spell, not put a spell, but next time to sort of get something good out of the spiritual world? When is it Christmas?
Always a good time if you interact with them properly. Like attracts like, you know, even around this time, if you do it with the right intent, you'll attract the right people. And good spirits are always around you. And that's why I say that if anybody wants to contact their loved ones or put out a thought, not to be worried, because if their parents are over there, their parents are not going to let anyone through to harm them. They'd have to get through them first. So you're always protected in a set way. But, you know, there are always good times with spirit. It's just those that deal with it differently or tamper or dabble with something that they don't.
The thing is, June, why else we are not allowed to know some things? Because I know that's true, isn't it? That some things that we just can't know. Why is that?
Well, my perception of it, that when I've meditated or done trance or interacted with spirit, they've always said that we couldn't comprehend what's going on. And therefore, they'll say things like, there are even more colours than you can ever imagine. Now, we think we know all the colours, and it's hard to think, what? There can't be any more colours than what we know. And so that goes over the top of our head. So it's similar to things like that. That's why we don't know. And we wouldn't want to know when we're going to pass over, because that would be good. You know, all of these things are for our good, I think. I've tried so hard to get the lottery numbers. I just never got
Yes, I was going to ask you that, June.
Yeah, I would do so much charity work from my home in Hawaii. It would be totally unbelievable.
And we would be there as well on our private planes.
Of course you would.
And everybody else, what would you do? But it's my favourite thing ever. Okay, so you've won 139 million. What was the first thing you'll do? Let's start with Harry.
No, don't keep starting with me.
You have to give her a moment to breathe and
think about it.
assess.
June, what would you do?
Well, what I would do was, first of all, I wouldn't tell anyone, and I would start to pay off people's mortgages and bills and do things for people if they were stuck or they were telling me about. And I just wouldn't ever tell anyone that I had won it. I would do good things. I would, and of course I would see to myself as well and my family. But I actually quite like my house and my home. It's not a huge big home, but I like it. I like where I am. I'm very settled. So I don't think I would move, but I would travel about a bit and I would see to animals and people, but I would do it undercover. I'd hire a solicitor and I would say on the understand, somebody'd come to me on my friend, bloody hell, somebody's just paid my mortgage, or I had this debt and it's paid now. That's fabulous. Who the heck would do that? That's what I would do.
Oh, that's lovely.
I have a list of friends the same, of things, people I would do exactly the same for. I always think about that, and charities would be my first thing.
Mm-hmm. I would actually buy an island, live on it, and tell everyone to F off. On it. No, I wouldn't do. No, I wouldn't do that. No, I'd look after my family and all my friends, and buy everyone houses. And then there are two charities that I'd like to give money to, which is WaterAid, which is really, close to my heart. And also there are orphanages still in existence with kids who never get placed. And they're in places, remote places that I know about. And that would be the first thing that I would do, actually.
That's wonderful. But I always do charities at any event I hold. I lot for charities. I would just still do it on the quiet. But there's many times that this is one of my bucket lists. If I had hordes of money, and sometimes because I'm so sensitive, if I pass a cattle truck or something on the road that's maybe going to the abattoir, and I have to pass it, I can feel their fear. And so I either stay behind it or I sit up and I go in front of it. Now, if I had loads of money, I would like nothing better than to pull the driver over and just pay for all these animals and a field, put them in it. I couldn't save the world, but you can make a difference to them. That's something I've always thought about. Gosh, I'd like to just pull that over and do that, but you know, we can't.
That's a lovely idea. Debbie, what about you?
Well, I'm very similar to June, except I have a caveat to mine.
Of course.
Because I would get this solicitor to go to everybody and say, I've paid your mortgages off and everything like that. And then I would go to each one of them and ask them to lend me some money.
Why?
Because
they're friends.
To see if they're friends. Because if I just had a whole load of money and somebody asked me to borrow some money, I would say yes. But a lot of people might not do that.
But what would that achieve?
That would achieve nothing, except I would just know that they're not as generous spirited as I thought they were. I would still never tell them.
No one ever is. If you judge people by your own standards, you'll always be let down. That's a fact.
Yes, it's true.
No, I judge you and I judge Dean. Never let me down. And Harriet, no.
But we all have our own standards, and it would solve nothing. It would hurt you. If they didn't lend you the money, you'd end up, it would be something detrimental to you because you'd feel hurt. And you couldn't say anything.
I wouldn't feel hurt. I would just find it interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Because I've already helped them.
Yeah.
And helping them gives so much pleasure anyway. And just thinking, okay.
No,
but the thing is, Debbie, about you is you do help a lot of people unconditionally. I mean, you do a lot of things for people, and you don't expect stuff back. So I find
do expect. I do expect to win the lottery, though.
Oh yes, that's very true. But that's not from the people.
I'm saying nothing. People ask me that. Well, I win it. I made a mistake a few times when someone has been interacting with me and they go, I've got to go, so I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. And I'll say, don't bother, you're not going to win it. And they're like,
I know. You did. I remember meeting your friend Vic, June, and he told me that you said that to him. You said, don't bother buying your ticket because you won't win.
Yeah. And he was just
totally I thought that was brilliant that you told him. That's good.
Don't waste your money. Somebody's got to win it. I said, yeah, but it's not going to be you.
But I remember that incident with somebody else where you told them they were going to get money, and they did the same day. And it was very unlikely, wasn't it?
Yes, and it was a good friend, and they said to me, what? How could this be okay? And I said, I don't know. I just feel it's going to be okay. I need 35,000 by the close of this day, and it's all fallen through. And you're telling me it's going to be okay? And their hairdresser came to cut their hair, and she said, what's wrong? And they said, oh, you know, I've this bill. She said, I've just sold my house. She says, the money's sitting in the bank. She says, we haven't bought anything yet. We're looking. She says, I'll give you the money and you give me it when your deal goes through.
Wow. Who's the hairdresser?
It was a good friend of theirs. It doesn't happen like that, Harriet.
Okay, just checking.
Don't give Harriet the number, please.
I need my hair done.
When we are, it's very hard to not live in the lack. You know, it's very hard when you haven't got any money to believe that things will change. It really is hard. But it's always about, if that's always happened, it always will happen until you get yourself to a place where it doesn't happen. So if you always do what you always done, then you always get what you always got. So you're behaving the same way. So you have to bring yourself to a different level and say, right, actually, I've always done this before. I'm going to do this now. And then something changes. Even the slightest thing, it really does work.
But you're right. But the time, you know, that we have with people here on this side of life, and the trinkets and baubles that we gather and accumulate that we think is so important to us, the more that people we lose and the older we get, we realize that they're not as important as we thought they were. So things change all the time. Perception.
Well, listen, darling, thank you for being our witch of the day.
All right, lovely. Take care. See you soon.
Yes,
bye, darling.
Lots of love.
I'm just going to get my broomstick serviced.
Have you seen mine? Mine's inflatable.
It's absolutely fantastic.
I know,
Thank
it's
you for them. Take care, girls.
Bye, darling.
Bye.
Where
That
do you
was
get
fantastic.
an inflatable broomstick from, Harriet?
Well, where do you think, dear?
Ah. From the witches.
The witch's cupboard. Anyway, girls, we'll see you on Friday. I think we have a sort of what do we have? A well woman conversation.
Yes,
Yes, we do.
Now I've got to get on my broomstick, girls, and I'll see you later.
All right,
Okay,
see you
darling.
later. Okay, bye.
Don't drink and fly.
Yes, I will. Bye.